Okay, so we're just waiting for players now on Chi-Chi's queue.
It's definitely cool seeing that my mom helped set up these big events where millions of people watch them from TV and in the stadium.
All right, we've got the whole team ready to go.
I remember I saw my mom on her computer and then she started crying. I didn't really know what it was.
I started playing when I was 4. I got lucky with the way things progressed in women's hockey. My sophomore year when I was at Brown, I think it was 92, they announced that in 98 women's hockey would become an Olympic sport. To qualify to play for Japan, I had to live there 4 years, so I moved as soon as I graduated. The Olympics ended in February and then I moved home to the US. I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I reached out to everyone who might have an entry-level position, and I started my internship at the NHL that fall. A couple months into the internship, they offered me a full-time position. I quickly realized events suited me.
When Chi-Chi joined the NHL 25 years ago, the event schedule was almost an afterthought. She has been here through this entire transformation, going from an afterthought to a really big deal with tentpole events that I think are the envy of other sports.
How's it going?
Just another day at the office, right?
Just another day.
I'm the biggest cheerleader every time she's got a promotion and she's moved to the next level. And just being at some of the events and seeing how important she is to the team.
Are we gonna rubber mat from the officials' locker room?
It kind of gave me a pretty good idea that she's good at what she does.
I feel fortunate every day. March of 2020, the world shut down because of the pandemic. I had forgotten that I'd scheduled my regular yearly mammogram, and they called me, hey, just confirming your mammogram appointment. And I was actually a little surprised. I'm like, oh, you're still open? Had my mammogram, and then that's when things got flagged. They said, you should probably get a needle biopsy. And then she called, said, hey, you're gonna be okay, is how she started. And she said, but you have stage 0 DCIS.
Breast cancer is basically cells within the breast tissue that stop being regulated by the normal way of growth and growth in excess. Breast cancer, unfortunately, is the second most common form of cancer in all women.
I was like, what does all this mean? And then so I think my husband saw me getting emotional on the phone.
She was sitting at the kitchen table and started crying. I didn't know who she was on the phone with. And she got off the phone, and that's when she was like, they found something. She has a history in her family, so her mom passed away fairly early. So obviously it was horrifyingly scary because we have younger children.
I didn't understand. She looked very sad, and I was confused. Like a few days after she found out, we sat down and we talked about it.
The key to success in all cancers is early diagnosis.
We found out it was stage 0 cancer, which is super early, thank goodness. I had been speaking with Suzanne the whole time because the mammogram place is a doctor that she knows, so she's been kept in the loop.
We have had a 25-year friendship. I remember her saying, I really don't know what to do now.
It was either a lumpectomy or go with a double mastectomy.
Chi-Chi's young and she has young kids, and she needs to do everything she can to make sure that this is behind her.
It resonated. I'm like, she's right, my kids are little. I don't want to have to worry about this. So I went back to the breast surgeon and I said, listen, I'm really contemplating a double mastectomy. And I was expecting her to push back because it's such a bigger surgery. And she was like, nope, that's a good option too. Let's talk about what that means. And that's what we decided to do. After the surgery, when she told me that my margins were clear, like my husband and I just had relief, and we were glad we made the right decision.
They completed the first procedure and they were like, we got it all out, which is great. And then a year later, they reconfirmed that.
We were excited, and I think we told a lot of people. We had a dinner with a bunch of friends to celebrate.
The support from everyone was overwhelming. They were amazing. Look, I'm tearing up thinking about it. Yeah, it was just touching.
I am delighted to be with you today to announce the National Hockey League's plans for our resumption of play in 2 hub cities. Each will have secure arenas, practice facilities, hotels, and local transportation.
I'm coming to you from Edmonton, and behind me, we are building out our bubble.
During my whole recovery time, everyone else in my department had departed for the bubble. 30 days into the bubble, maybe, I said, hey, I'm clear to go back to work. I'd really like to join the bubble.
She had my full blessing, she had the boys' full blessing. If she was ready to go physically and mentally, then we're not gonna stop her.
She insisted on going into the bubble at a time where she could have easily have stayed home, and when I urged her to stay home, so it just shows she doesn't listen to me all the time.
Maybe a little FOMO, maybe a little I need to get my life back on track. I love what I do, so I was happy to be part of that experience. A coworker approached me in the bubble and said, hey, I found a lump and I need to go see someone when I get back, and wanted to talk to me about the steps that I had taken.
It's very simple at-home screening that you can do, which is basically the self-exam. So if you actually detect a nodule in your breast, that should trigger a consultation with your primary care physician or with a specialist.
She had found out it was cancer. In the end, she had ended up going to the same place I went to.
There was no shock in there at all that Chi-Chi, of all people, would be someone who would jump in to help somebody else.
Hockey's everything to her. It's her work, she's played, now she's got the kids. She loves teaching the kids, she actually helps out with the teams when she can. We're all hockey all the time in this family.
I'm glad I went for my mammogram to find it all out, because if I'd put it off, who knows? You just never know with cancer how quickly something changes.
Chi-Chi is exhibit A of how you deal with adversity with grace and elegance and come through the other side. She's an inspiration for all of us.